Erhebt euch, Sir Duncan der Große. Wie gut seid ihr als Ritter?
Ihr werdet sehen. Hier geht's lang. Ich komme wegen des Turniers.
Das Turnier ist ausschließlich für Ritter. Bist du ein Ritter?
Ich bin kein Bauer.
Und doch bist du wie einer gekleidet.
Ich könnte euer Knappe sein. Und ihr könntet mich lernen. Jeder Ritter braucht einen Knappen. Und ihr braucht einen noch mehr als die anderen.
Sir Alan lehrte mich, ein wahrer Ritter zu sein. Nicht was Schwert und Lanze angeht, sondern Ehre. Und auf die habe ich geschworen.
Was will er? Er ist ein Heckenritter, richtig? Was? Er ist wie ein Ritter, nur trauriger.
Wir sind nicht traurig. Wenn ich mich ein Recken nennen dürfte, dann würde mich vielleicht eines der großen Häuser in seinen Dienst nehmen. Vielleicht sogar Haus Targaryen.
Die Targaryen sind inzesttreibende Fremde. Tyrannen.
Sir Duncan der Große. Aerion will euren Kopf.
Vielleicht glauben die Götter, dass ich es so verdiene.
Komm raus, kleiner Ritter!
Darum frage ich euch erneut. Wie gut seid ihr als Ritter?
Vielleicht flieht ihr besser.
Töten die mich nicht, wenn ich fliehe?
Töten die euch nicht so oder so?
Ist die Ehre verloren gegangen, den edlen Häusern von Westeros! Gibt es keine wahren Ritter mehr unter euch?
War das ungeschickt? Ja, richtig.
Einen wunderschönen guten Abend, Berlin. Good evening, Berlin, and a warm welcome to a very special event here at the Delphi Filmpalast. Outside, you could clearly see that winter is not only coming, that it's already here very much, but I can thank you for laughing. That's my favorite audience so far. But I can promise you inside here, it's gonna be spring. And that is not due to me. It's on behalf of our partners, HBO Max and Thalia bookstores. We're truly delighted to welcome you tonight all together. And I have to say that this very close collaboration made it possible to create an event like this, and it's wonderful to see you all out here coming for this. I can congratulate you. You're not gonna regret coming here because you're gonna be among the very, very first people, the first fans worldwide to see exclusive footage from A Night of the Seven Kingdoms ahead of its official launch on HBO Max, as you could just see. And this evening is not about spoilers, it's not about promotion, it's more about craft, it's more about the characters itself, and about how stories travel from pages and books to screen. I'm Marie-Christine Knoop, and I'm really thrilled that we're joined by the two people who have shaped this universe in decisive ways. They're going to read from the literary origin of the series, from the story Hedge Knight that gave rise to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and we're going to see snippets that no one else has seen before. So please sit back and immerse yourselves in Westeros and enjoy a really extraordinary evening full of stories, full of images and insights. And now, please give a warm and very loud round of applause to the showrunner Ira Parker and the author George R.R. Martin. What an entrance already. Thank you so much for coming. And of course, the first question has to be George and Ira. Why Berlin? How do we deserve the honor of you having us with us?
I don't know. They told me to come here, and I did. I haven't been to Berlin in 25 years, so...
it was time.
I guess it was time, yeah. It's been a ways. But it's exciting to be here. I did tell you winter was coming. You didn't take it literally. I could have lived without winter, but here it is.
Ira, what would you say, what can this audience here tonight do to make sure this evening outshines everything elsewhere in the world for you and let you remember this Berlin evening for the rest of your life?
That sounds good.
Sorry, what?
I said, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Can we do that, yeah?
Is there anything you like that audience do, like react enthusiastically or cry or laugh, or you can now make it clear and then we will follow?
Look, as honest as possible, please, people. You know, I'm still trying to gauge exactly how this whole thing is going to go over, and I'm very suspect of any time that somebody says anything good or bad or mediocre or anything. I think that says more about me than, you know, other people's reactions. So just, yeah, give me what you got, good or bad, laughing, crying, you know, nothing too.
How did George react to the first scenes when you saw it? Do you remember? Were you super scared, Ira?
No, because look, at that point George had seen and read a lot, and so we knew we were in a good-ish place, I suppose. But yes, it's always nice to hear that it all came together.
What's your favorite reaction, George, if people are reading your books?
What's my favorite what?
Reaction from the audience?
Well, of course, I'd like them to love the books. That reaction is always good, you know, laugh at the right place, gasp in horror at the right place, respond to it the way it was meant to respond. Although audiences are tricky, sometimes they'll fool you, and you get a reaction you didn't necessarily expect.
Perfect. So we have a little homework. We're going to watch you, how you're going to react. We're now entering this story, and we're again in Westeros. So my first question would be, on a meta level, what makes this very special corner of Westeros fundamentally different from the Westeros we've known before, George?
Well, I think when you watch this series, you'll notice among other things, a great difference in tone. This is, you know, the two shows that you're probably familiar with, Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, are substantially darker, and they focus more on the kings and the Iron Throne and the great lords and battles and bloodshed. And not that there's not some of that in this. You know, this is not a sitcom, although it hopefully has a few amusing moments. But what we wanted to do with this is do something that focused a little more on not just the kings and the great lords, but also the common people, the small folk, as we call them, and a view of what their life is like in Westeros. And also, I said it at the tourney because, I don't know, I've always, when I was a kid in Bayonne, New Jersey, growing up, all the other kids liked cowboys, and I liked knights better than cowboys. And tourneys, jousting, not that I had a horse or even a dog or anything. I did have some turtles. That was the only
Very slow tourney then.
Yeah, they were the only kind of pet we were permitted in the projects. But I loved you know, Robin Hood and King Arthur and all like that, and I loved the tourney scenes. So
and we're gonna see that. Yeah.
You've seen tournament sequences and jousting sequences in both Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, but they're not at the center of the thing. They're more peripheral. The tourney is much a bigger part of all this. Right?
I agree.
Ira, how did that, I imagine that responsibility of like the third big entry into the Westeros universe must have felt like a huge responsibility. How did you tackle that?
I mean, look, the truth is that even this is a really fun job. And even if you're working on the smallest, most niche show in the whole world, you still come and you want to make it fantastic, way better than it should be. And that's all you do when you come to this as well. You're not really thinking about the fact that a lot of eyeballs are going to see this and judge this. You're just trying to put all your energy and all your love for these books and these stories and characters into the work, and which is no different than any other gig.
So I think we spent a lot of time about the world already. We're going to talk a bit about it afterwards. But now let's meet the protagonists of the story. We have seen a glimpse of them already. We're going to meet them soon in your book. But maybe first a very general question. Who are Duncan and Egg? These are their names. Who are they when we first meet them, George?
Well, Dunk is a hedge knight. He's been squiring to an old man called Sir Arlen of Pennytree. Dunk himself is a kid who grew up in King's Landing, in Flea Bottom, which is not the best neighborhood. He doesn't know who his parents were. He, an orphan kid, a street kid, running, stealing, hanging out with the other street kids. But in a society that where the knights are at the center of things, if you're in Flea Bottom and King's Landing, you can look up and see the Red Keep on top of the biggest of the three hills, and you see the knights and the lords coming and going from there, and it's like any kid even in modern age, you're in a bad neighborhood, but in a big city, you're very close to the good neighborhoods and where the rich people live and the lordly people live and so forth. I imagine you have that here in Germany. They certainly do in, like, England, where we were last month, and you go through London and there's the palaces, Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle and all of that stuff, and it's right there, right next to the other stuff. That's the great thing about cities.
I think we're now going to meet them as the reader would meet them, the first did. We meet them now quietly, and as we were just saying, not in a very heroic place. Would you do us the honor of reading us a few pages of what Duncan and Egg meet?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is from, we have a book which has 3 novellas in it, and our show here, the first season of our show, is based on The Hedge Knight, which was the introductory novella originally published in an anthology called Legends that Robert Silverberg edited back in the dawn of time. And here's, well, I'll just let it speak to himself. Don't worry, I'm not reading the whole thing, just a few pages. Sweetfoot had an easier gait than Old Chestnut, but Dunk was still sore and tired when he spied the inn ahead, a tall daub and timber building beside a stream. The warm yellow light spilling from its windows looked so inviting that he could not pass it by. I have 3 silvers, he told himself, enough for a good meal and as much as ale as I care to drink. As he dismounted, a naked boy emerged dripping from the stream and began to dry himself on a rough-spun brown cloak. "Are you the stable boy?" Dunk asked him. The lad looked to be no more than 8 or 9, a pasty-faced, skinny thing, his bare feet caked in mud up to the ankle. His hair was the queerest thing about him. He had none. "I'll want my palfrey run down, and oats for all 3. Can you tend to them?" The boy looked at him brazenly. "I could, if I wanted." Dunk frowned. "I'll have none of that. I'm a knight, I'll have you know." "You don't look to be a knight. Do all knights look the same?" "No, but they don't look like you either. Your sword belt's made of rope. So long as it holds my scabbard, it serves. Now see to my horses. You'll get a copper if you do well, and a clout in the ear if you don't." He did not wait to see how the stable boy took that, but turned away and shouldered through the door. At this hour, he would have expected the inn to be crowded, but the common room was almost empty. A young lordling in a fine damask mantle was passed out at one table, snoring softly into a pool of spilled wine. Otherwise, there was no one. Dunk looked around uncertainly until a stout, short, whey-faced woman emerged from the kitchens and said, sit where you like. Is it ale you want or food? Both. Dunk took a chair by the window, well away from the sleeping man. There's good lamb, roasted with a crust of herbs, and some ducks my son shot down. Which will you have? He had not eaten at an inn in half a year or more. Both. The woman laughed. Well, you're big enough for it. She drew a tankard of ale and brought it to his table. Will you be wanting a room for the night as well? No. Dunk would have liked nothing better than a soft straw mattress and a roof above his head, but he needed to be careful with his coin. The ground would serve. Some food, some ale, and it's on to Ashford for me. How much farther is it? Oh, a day's ride, bare north where the road forks at the Burn Mill. Is my boy seeing to your horses, or has he run off again? No, he's there, said Dunk. You seem to have no custom. Half the town's gone to see the tourney. My own would as well, if I allowed it. They'll have this in when I go, but the boy would sooner swagger about with soldiers, and the girl turns to sighs and giggles every time a knight rides by. I swear I couldn't tell you why. Knights are built the same as other men. I never knew a joust to change the price of eggs. She eyed Dunk curiously. His sword and his shield told her one thing. His rope belt and rough-spun tunic quite another. You're bound for the tourney yourself? He took a sip of the ale before he answered. A nut-brown color it was, and thick on the tongue, the way he liked it. Aye, he said. I mean to be a champion. Do you now? The innkeep answered, polite enough. Across the room, the lordling raised his head from the wine puddle. His face had a sallow, unhealthy cast to it. Beneath the rat's nest of sandy brown hair and blonde stubble crusted his chin. He rubbed his mouth, blinked at Dunk, and said, I dreamed of you. His hand trembled as he pointed a finger. You stay away from me. Do you hear? You stay well away. Dunk stared at him uncertainly. My lord? The innkeep leaned close. Never you mind that one, sir. All he does is drink and talk about his dreams. I'll see about that food. She bustled off. Food? The lordling made the word an obscenity. He staggered to his feet, one hand on the table to keep himself from falling. I'm going to be sick, he announced. The front of his tunic was crusty red with old wine stains. I wanted a whore, but there's none to be found here. All gone to Ashford Meadow. Gods be good, I need some wine. He lurched unsteadily from the common room, and Dunk heard him climbing steps, singing under his breath. A sad creature, thought Dunk, but why did he think he knew me? He pondered that a moment over his ale. The lamb was as good as any he had ever eaten, and the duck was even better, cooked with cherries and lemons, and not near as greasy as most. The innkeep brought buttered peas as well, and oaten bread still hot from her oven. This is what it means to be a knight, he told himself as he sucked the last bit of meat off the bone. Good food, ale whenever I want it, and no one to clout me in the head. He had a second tankard of ale with the meal, a third to wash it down, and a fourth because there was no one to tell him he couldn't. And when he was done, he paid the woman with a silver stag and still got back a fistful of coppers. It was full dark by the time Dunk emerged. His stomach was full, and his purse was a little lighter, but he felt good as he walked to the stables. Ahead, he heard a horse whicker. Easy, lad, a boy's voice said. Dunk quickened his step, frowning. He found the stable boy mounted on Thunder and wearing the old man's armor. The hauberk was longer than he was, and he'd had to tilt his helm back on his bald head, or else it would have covered his eyes. He looked utterly intent and utterly absurd. Dunk stopped in the stable door and laughed. The boy looked up, flushed, vaulted to the ground. "My lord, I did not mean thief," Dunk said, trying to sound stern. "Take off that armor and be glad Thunder didn't kick you in your fool head. He's a war horse, not a boy's pony." The boy took off the helm and flung it to the straw. "I could ride him as well as you," he said, bold as you please. "Close your mouth. I want none of your insolence. The hauberk, too. Take it off. What did you think you were doing?" "How can I tell you with my mouth closed?" The boy squirmed out of the chainmail and let it fall. "You can open your mouth to answer," said Dunk. "Now pick up that mail, shake off the dirt, and put it back where you found it. And the half-helm, too. Did you feed the horses, as I told you, and rub down Sweetfoot?" "Yes," the boy said, as he shook straw from the mail. "You're going to Ashford, aren't you?" "Take me with you, sir." The innkeep had warned him of this. "And what might your mother say to that?" "My mother?" The boy wrinkled up his face. "My mother's dead. She wouldn't say anything." He was surprised. Wasn't the innkeep his mother? Perhaps he was only apprenticed to her. Dunk's head was a little fuzzy from the ale. "Are you an orphan, boy?" he asked uncertainly. "Are you?" the boy threw back. I was once," Dunk admitted, "till the old man took me in." "If you took me, I could squire for you." "I have no need of a squire," he said. "Every knight needs a squire," the boy said. "You look as though you need one more than most." Dunk raised a hand threateningly. "And you look as though you need a clout in the ear, it seems to me. Fill me a sack of oats. I'm off to Ashford, alone." If the boy was frightened, he hid it well. For a moment he stood there defiant, his arms crossed. But just as Dunk was about to give up on him, the lad turned and went for the oats. Dunk was relieved. "A pity I couldn't, but he has a good life here at the inn, a better one than he'd have squiring for a hedge knight. Taking him would be no kindness." He could still feel the lad's disappointment, though. As he mounted Sweetfoot and took up Thunder's lead, Dunk decided that a copper penny might cheer him. "Here, lad, for your help." He flipped a coin down at him with a smile, but the stable boy made no attempt to catch it. It fell in the dirt between his bare feet, and there he let it lie. "He'll scoop it up as soon as I am gone," Dunk told himself. He turned the palfrey and rode from the inn, leading the other two horses. The trees were bright with moonlight, and the sky was cloudless and speckled with stars. Yet as he headed down the road, he could feel the stable boy watching his back, sullen and silent.
Thank you so much. Before we're going to see them on screen and their on-screen energy, so to say, that story was already published in 1989. What and why have these two characters stayed so close to you over the years, George? What made them so special to you?
You know, that's a hard one. I don't know. I've often said in interviews and all that there are two kinds of writers, which I call the architect and the gardener. And the architect is a writer who plans everything like an architect designing a building. He knows how many rooms there's going to be and what the roof is made of and what sort of plumbing it has. And before he even writes the first word or drives the first nail, it's all in his head. It's all figured out. The gardener has a vague idea of whether he's going to grow an oak tree or an ear of corn, and ideas come to him, and he follows them. He plants a seed, and he waters it often with his blood, and it grows, and sometimes it grows the way he expected, and sometimes it goes off. No writer is 100% either architect or gardener, but I think most writers lean one way or another, and I've always been much more of a gardener. I start stories, and I don't necessarily know exactly where they're going to end, but the characters, if it's going well, and mind you, it doesn't always go well, but if it is going well, the characters tell you where they're going, and you follow where they lead. And in this case, I wrote the hedge night for an anthology called Legends that Robert Silverberg invited me to be in, a very prestigious anthology with 10 of the top fantasy writers, and it had some great people in it, people like Ursula K. Le Guin and Stephen King, and it was a thrill to be in that number. And I knew a few things going in. I knew, first of all, I knew that Silverberg gave me a deadline, and I better finish the story before the end of the year. And I wanted to write something about the small folk, something that was not about people contesting for the Iron Throne. I knew that, and I knew I wanted to do something set at a tourney, because, as I said earlier, I love tournaments and things like that. So that's where I began, and somehow I found myself at that inn with Dunk and the horses, and it kind of grew from there. And I liked how it grew, so I continued that, and
When did you fall in love? Yeah, sorry. When did you fall in love with these two? At what point in reading? What do you think makes them different from all the other characters in Westeros?
Okay, I mean, certainly for Dunk, he doesn't have what a lot of George's underdog characters have, which is a quick wit to fall back on. So it's interesting finding where he's earnest and he lacks guile, and he's got a lot of heart, and within that there's a lot of hope. And I think it's very easy to want to go on a journey with him. I think a lot of people feel their own story reflected in Dunk's. He's just a kid with a silly dream. He wants to go out, he wants to be a knight, he wants to go do this really difficult thing. But like all of us, when we've ever decided we're going to go try something new and something hard, all of a sudden you're hit with the reality of what that actually means and how difficult that is. And season 1 is really Dunk's trial to see if he can do this thing, get this thing that he was always thought he wanted.
Some called it, and that's a very German word, even in English, it's the Bildungsroman, it's the coming of age kind of story where you have a dream and you're going to chase it. So now we're going to see them interact in 2 scenes very quickly, as we would say in German, film ab. And then usually the movie appears. Now it does.
Be quiet or you'll get a clout in the air.
I'm a knight, I'll have you know.
You don't look to be a knight.
What, all knights look the same, do they?
No, they don't look like to you either. Your belt's made of rope.
So long as it holds my scabbard, it serves.
Are you going to the tourney then? Do you mean to enter the lists?
Yeah, I suppose I do.
Thank you. I mean, you probably, when you're writing, you see them very clearly, the protagonists, the figures in your book, and then there are the actors, and they bring in a different kind of reality. With these two, were you immediately, yes, this is how I imagined them? Did you have to get used to, or was it like love at first sight?
Yeah, casting is always a challenge in any adaptation or something like that. But in this case, my God, it's like they walked out of the pages of the book. I was just in love with them the minute I saw them, and the way they played the parts and the way they interacted together. It was kind of magical for me.
It's and also to give them their name and their credit. They were written, but it's Peter Clefairy and Dexter Saul and Sel, and I think it's an amazing performance. They seem to be friends before, but they met actually on the set. Is that true, Ira? How did you, did they get going from the very beginning? Was it a special atmosphere you needed for them to be that magic duo, or how can we imagine that has taken place?
No, look, Dexter we had right away. He was literally the very first person that our casting director sent us at all the batches of all the people, of all the actors. We got an egg batch, 15 people, Dexter Saul Ansel, #1. I watched the audition, thought, perfect, this is going to be easy. Then, we talked, and she's like, well, we should probably see everybody. So we went, and we did that, and we came all the way back to him. Peter, look, there's not too many people who are headed towards 7 feet tall, who aren't built like a string bean, and who can handle drama and comedy. Peter having done Vikings and having done Bad Sisters, and obviously being a professional Irish rugby player, he's the only person on planet Earth who could have played this role. We're so lucky that he decided to give up rugby and be an actor for us.
We did have to go with someone shorter. Peter is not as tall as Duncan.
Yes, Peter stands at 6 feet 6 inches tall. Not quite Dunk's measured height of 6'11", in between seasons 1 and 2. Who knows? Maybe he grows after this.
But that could be 2, yes.
What you haven't seen so far is the format is a very special one. It's 30 minutes. So my question to you, Ira, why is that the right length for the story? I imagine it to be very different from 60 minutes. You have way more time. It's 6 episodes, 30 minutes. What's the special challenge or maybe the special beauty of 30 minutes?
Look, in one sense, it is tricky to tell a quality episode of drama, to set it up and to tell the story and then to close it down within that amount of time. And we wanted every episode to feel like its own special entry. We didn't want this to just feel like one long movie where we just divvied it up into 6 pieces. So you have to find the right starting and stopping points, and you have to do a lot. And I think these episodes, even though they are small, they do feel at the end quite packed, that they were dense, that a lot has been accomplished and a lot of things have been learned. I would say I'm just grateful. I mean, look, we had, how long is this first one? 92 pages-ish, something, and A Song of Ice and Fire is cresting towards 6,000 pages.
Yes.
It very much necessitated us being able to do this from 30 to 40-minute episodes for only 6 episodes. So we don't have to send Dunk off on strange tangents and different missions, that we could adapt this faithfully and just fill out the world, spend more time with these characters, and have a little bit of fun in Westeros.
We did have some issues to consider when we started to develop this. The Duncan Egg stories are novellas, which is a shorter form than a novel. House of Dragon and Game of Thrones, they're Game of Thrones in particular is 5 rather gigantic novels, and I know it should be 7, and I'm working on the others, but they're big, thick books. These are a novella. That's a novella that was written for inclusion in an anthology with 10 other writers. So it's substantially shorter. So when we decided to develop a show based on these, the first issue was, well, how do we deal with this? I mean, the other Game of Thrones, for example, there were 10 episodes a season, and each of them was in the vicinity of an hour. Some of them were a little, one great thing about HBO is that if you work on a network show, as I have in the past, they really have to be precise to the second, It's a show for CBS or NBC, it's like 46 minutes and 37 seconds, and it better not be 38 seconds, because you got the commercial and all that come in. So, how are we going to do this? And we discussed various things. There were some people who proposed that, well, we have to do it the same way the other two. They have to be 10 episodes, and they have to be an hour long each. And well, it's not going to work. There's not 10 episodes. We'd have to invent a whole bunch of new stuff and throw it in. And there's that issue, and some people had proposals for well, there's not enough happening in this, so we'll cut away from Duncan Egg. We'll go back to King's Landing and see what's happening there. And obviously, I did not like that idea. Basically, I don't like the idea when things are changed. There was also a proposal that we discussed for some time that let's do this as not a series of episodes, but one 3-hour television movie. We could probably do the entire Hedge Knight as one 3-hour movie, but HBO was not too keen on that idea because they basically don't do 3-hour television movies. So we finally settled on the format that we have, which is 6 episodes, not an hour long each, but they're basically a half-hour long, right? How precise is that? Or
we were allowed anything between 30 and 60 minutes, but the first episode is the longest. I think it came in at 40-something minutes, 42 minutes.
Right.
Then everything else is between 30 and 35.
Because we're like now at 30 minutes, I would say, of the event, I thought in case you have jet lag issues, we would do a quick fire round with short answers. We see how that's going to turn out. And the first question would be, if the two of you were traveling through Westeros together, who would be more Duncan and who would be more Egg? George, you can go first.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not as tall or strong,
maybe more like
or fierce
metaphorically
as Duncan. So maybe I'd be more like Egg because I'm a little.
Could you
smart
be so
aleck.
Duncan then?
Yeah. So the first time before I met George, I was briefed on him a little bit, and the one thing that was said to me is he has the biggest brain that of any person you've ever met, and so definitely we're gonna lean Egg with George, and yeah, I'll take Dunk. Dunk just tries so darn hard, you know, and he's maybe, I don't know, a bit of a late bloomer, you know. I think we. I understand that, and but at the end, maybe he ends up being the truest knight of all.
Second question, yeah, and applause. The series and the book is a lot about honor and chivalry as well, being a knight. So the second question would be, if chivalry still existed today, maybe it does, which rule would each of you insist on keeping? Which rule of chivalry would be maybe make the world a better place, George?
Ah, boy. That's tough. I like, the concept of honor, and I always was attracted, as a kid, reading the King Arthur stories and other tales of knightly valor from those days. I was fascinated by chivalry. When you look at it, it's one of the most idealistic codes ever developed in Western society. The things that knights are supposed to do, defending the innocent and protecting the weak, and it's really something that I wish more people actually followed in real life. But if you read the history, that was the ideal, but not a lot of people followed it. The actual medieval knights, yeah, sure, there was some who took the vows and followed them, but there were others who were basically warriors. They were killers. They were killing machines. They fought in battles. They did, some terrible things. When you look at 100 Years' War, the Crusades, God, they could be real sons of bitches. And out of that conflict, I think there was drama. That I always find when the ideal and the reality don't mesh, how do you decide what's good and what's evil? What is a knight's duty and all of that? I thought that was all fascinating, and I wanted to explore that more.
Ira, your take on chivalry in the modern world.
I like be just and fair. I think that would be very helpful. No, I don't know. I don't think that's possible. We can't be fair. But just, yeah, okay, yeah.
To you as storytellers, and maybe Ira, you go first on this. What matters more, humor or suspense?
Look, humor is based on suspense. It's the punchline. It's the setup. People form an expectation, you know, and then you deliver something that subverts the expectation. You know, it's the same pattern. Everything, whether you're doing a horror or a comedy, it's all just tricks.
What do you say, George? Humor or suspense?
I think you need both of them. You know, humor is really the thing that makes your characters come alive. And it leavens the story, and one of the things that people like about Game of Thrones, of course, which precluded this, is that there is some humor in it. A lot of fantasy, and I love Tolkien. J.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, was one of the books that really changed my life. I read it when I was like in junior high school. It was like the best book I'd ever read. I still reread it every few years. And then Tolkien became so popular that there was a ton of Tolkien imitators who came along and tried to do what J.R. Tolkien had done, but they didn't. Some succeeded more than others, but the one thing that I don't think they ever got right was, you know, the humor, and it is there. It's not like Lord of the Rings is a laugh riot, but you know, you listen to the hobbits, you know, teasing each other and going back and forth, and there's a real level of humanity to them, and that's one of the things that makes Tolkien, I think, so much better than most of the people who tried to follow in his footsteps.
I'm changing my vote. Humor.
Good, perfect. We have a debate. George, the last question of the quick fire round. What is harder, more difficult to you? The first sentence of a story or that says like hello to the reader, or the last sentence that says goodbye?
Oh, they're both crucial. They're both crucial. The first line, the last line are very, very important. Some of my favorite books, you know, you remember the first line. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Mm-hmm. And you open your story with a line like that, and you're off to a great start. But a good last line is also nice if you can send them away with.
Very diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ira, the first scene or the last scene, where do you put more effort? That sounds not disrespectful, but what is more?
Look, for me, the beginning always matters more when I'm taking something in, because I want to be entertained immediately. I just want to be brought in. I'm cheap that way. I don't give things, you know, a chance. But the truth is that as a craftsman, as a writer, the ending is that's the most important. You gotta nail it. That's how you get people coming back. But as George was saying, a good beginning and a good end, you could just fuck around in the middle. It doesn't even matter what's happened. You could be so slow. You have a good beginning and a good end, you'll go on for forever.
You nod, George? Yeah, please.
Yeah. I quoted, of course, Dickens there with the best of times, worst of times, but that also has the amazing ending there. It was a far, far better thing he did than he had ever done. It was a far, far sweeter rest he went to than he had ever known. I mean, what could be better than that?
Good endings are harder.
Yeah.
They once voted on the best German first sentence in a book, and it became Günter Grass, and like roughly translated saying, Ilsebill, which is a very weird female name, Ilsebill put more salt on it. That was the best German first sentence ever invented, so that could be your takeaway from Berlin. If we look at the visual language, and we're going to see another part of the series as well, how did you define what the series should look like even before the shooting began, Ira?
I think obviously taking into account what's come before us, but it needed to be a reflection of our sole POV. It needed to be a reflection of Dunk. We have one character. We're not roaming around Westeros to all the different families. And like Dunk, it needs to be simple and unpolished, gritty, and earthy. Earthy is good, you know? Dunk, he likes his trees, and there's going to be a lot of mud this season. But he's a man of, the outdoors. So yes, that informed our look. That informed everything. Cinematography to music to, to our stunts, to the way the action was created. Everything.
My takeaway maybe from this evening is that as a knight, you cannot leave a room very quietly. We should all remember this in case of carnival things. We're gonna first hear about the tourney finally now, which is in the epicenter of everything. And you're gonna read a few pages of the tourney now from the book.
Yes, I have a few pages of that too. So Duncan has reached Ashford Meadow here. And as the champions strutted into position, Ashford Meadow grew almost still. Then a horn sounded, and the stillness turned to tumult in half a heartbeat. 10 pairs of gilded spurs drove into the flanks of 10 great war horses. 1,000 voices began to scream and shout. 40 iron-shod hooves pounded and tore the grass. 10 lances dipped and steadied. The field seemed almost to shake, and champions and challengers came together in a rending crash of wood and steel. In an instant, the riders were beyond each other, wheeling about for another pass. Lord Tully reeled in his saddle, but managed to keep his seat. When the commons realized that all 10 of the lances had broken, a great roar of approval went up. It was a splendid omen for the success of the tourney, and a testament to the skill of the competitors. Squires handed fresh lances to the jousters to replace the broken ones they cast aside, and once more the spurs dug deep. Dunk could feel the earth trembling beneath the soles of his feet. Atop his shoulders, Egg shouted happily and waved his pipe-stem arms. The young prince passed nearest to them. Dunk saw the point of his black lance kiss the watchtower on his foe's shield and slide off to slam into the chest, even as Sir Abelar's own lance burst into splinters against Valar's breastplate. The gray stallion and the silver and smoke trappings reared with the force of impact, and Sir Abelar Hightower was lifted from his stirrups and dashed violently to the ground. Lord Tully was down as well, unhorsed by Sir Humphrey Harding, but he sprang up at once and drew his longsword, and Sir Humphrey cast aside his lance, unbroken, and dismounted to continue their fight afoot. Sir Abelar was not so sprightly. His squire ran out, loosened his helm, and called for help, and 2 serving men lifted the dazed knight by the arms to help him back to his pavilion. Elsewhere on the field, the 6 knights who had remained ahorse were riding their 3rd course. More lances shattered, and this time Lord Leo Tyrell aimed his point so expertly he ripped the gray lion's helm cleanly off his head. Barefaced, the Lord of Casterly Rock raised his hand in salute and dismounted, yielding the match. By then, Sir Humphrey had beaten Lord Tully into surrender, showing himself as skilled with a sword as he was with a lance. Tybalt Lannister and Andrew Ashford rode against each other thrice more before Sir Andrew finally lost shield, seat, and match all at once. The younger Ashford lasted even longer, breaking no less than 9 lances against Sir Lionel Baratheon, the Laughing Storm. Champion and challenger both lost their saddles on their 10th course, only to rise together to fight on, sword against mace. Finally, a battered Sir Robert Ashford admitted defeat, but on the viewing stand his father looked anything but dejected. Both Lord Ashford's sons had had been ushered from the ranks of the champions. It was true, but they had acquitted themselves nobly against two of the finest knights in the Seven Kingdoms. I must do even better, though, Dunk thought as he watched victor and vanquished embrace and walk together from the field. It's not enough for me to fight well and lose. I must win at least the first challenge, or I lose all. Sir Tybalt Lannister and the Laughing Stem would now take their places among the champions, replacing the men they had defeated. Already the orange pavilions were coming down. A few feet away, the young prince sat at his ease in a raised camp chair before the great black tent. His helm was off. He had dark hair like his father, but a bright streak ran through it. A serving man brought him a silver goblet, and he took a sip. Water, if he's wise, Dunk thought. Wine, if not. He found himself wondering if Valar had indeed inherited a measure of his father's prowess, or whether it had only been that he had drawn the weaker opponent. A fanfare of trumpets announced that 3 new challengers had entered the lists. The heralds shouted their names. Sir Pierce of House Caron, Lord of the Marches. He had a silver harp emblazoned on his shield, though his surcoat was patterned with nightingales. Sir Jonathan of House Mallister from Seaguard. Sir Joseph sported a winged helm on his shield. A silver eagle flew across an indigo sky. Sir Gawain of House Swan, Lord of Stonehound on the Cape of Wrath. A pair of swans, one black and one white, fought furiously on his arms. Lord Gawain's armor, cloak, and horse bardings were a riot of black and white as well, down to the stripes on his scabbard and lance. Lord Caron, harper and singer and knight of renown, touched his point of his lance to Lord Tyrell's rose. Sir Joseph thumped on Sir Humphrey Hardin's diamonds. And the black and white knight, Lord Gawain Swan, challenged the black prince with the white guardian. Dunk rubbed his chin. Lord Gawain was even older than the old man, and the old man was dead. Egg, who is the least dangerous of these challengers? He asked the boy on his shoulders, who seemed to know so much of these knights. Lord Gawain, the boy said at once, Valar's foe. Prince Valar, he corrected. A squire must keep a courteous tongue, boy. The 3 challengers took their places as the 3 champions mounted up. Men were making wagers all around them and calling out encouragement to their choices, but Dunk had eyes only for the prince. On the first pass, he struck Lord Gawain's shield a glancing blow, the blunted point of his lance sliding aside just as it had with Sir Abelard Hightower. Only this time it was deflected the other way into empty air. Lord Gawain's own lance broke clean against the prince's chest, and Valar seemed about to fall for an instant before he recovered his seat. The second time through the list, Valar swung his lance left, aiming for the foe's breast, but struck his shoulder instead. Even so, the blow was enough to make the older knight lose his lance. One arm flailed for balance, and Lord Gawain fell. The young prince swung from the saddle and drew his sword, but the fallen man waved him off and raised his visor. I yield, your grace, he called. Well fought. The lords in the viewing stand echoed him, shouting, well fought, as Valar knelt to help the gray-haired lord to his feet. It was not either, Dunk complained. Be quiet, or you go back to camp. Farther away, Sir Joseph Mallister was being carried off the field unconscious, where the Harp Lord and the Rose Lord were going at each other lustily with blunted long axes, to the delight of the roaring crowd. Dunk was so intent on Valar Targaryen that he scarcely saw them. He's a fair knight, but no more than that, he found himself thinking. I would have a chance against him. If the gods were good, I might even unhorse him, and once afoot, my weight and strength would tell. Get him, Egg shouted merrily, shifting his seat on Dunk's shoulders in his excitement. Get him, hit him. He's right there, he's right there. It seemed to be Lord Caron he was cheering on. The harper was playing a different sort of music now, driving Lord Leo back. Driving Lord Leo back as steel sang on steel. The crowd seemed almost equally divided between them, so cheers and curses mingled freely in the morning air. Chips of wood and paint were flying from Lord Leo's shield as Lord Pierce's axe knocked the petals off his golden rose one by one until the shield finally shattered and split. But as it did, the axe head hung up for an instant in the wood, and Lord Leo's own axe crashed down on the haft of his foe's weapon, breaking it off not a foot from his hand. He cast aside his broken shield, and suddenly he was the one on the attack. Within moments, the Harper Knight was the one on his knee, singing his surrender.
Thank you so much, George.
You'll notice some of my peculiarities and obsessions in that sequence. As I say, I love tournaments. I love heraldry, and there's a lot of heraldry in all of these books. I like to describe the heraldry. That has annoyed some of my readers who say, there's too much heraldry. Why are you always describing the heraldry? Because I like it, and I'm the writer. I get to do it. And a lot of the movies and TV shows that have made about knights and tourneys don't do the heraldry right. I took some liberties with the heraldry because I made it, I added a lot of different sigils and things like that that maybe were not actually used in the actual medieval period. And also I gave them better dyeing techniques than they did in the real Middle Ages. You know, I have people who have crimson and other people have scarlet and all that. In the real Middle Ages, they were lucky if they could come up with something vaguely red, and coming up with the same thing twice was difficult. But it seemed to me to be more fun to do it that way. And of course, I described the battles and the lances and the way they went at each other with a lot of detail, because that was fun. I think one of the few things I told Ira one weekend that I wanted to have the best jousting sequences ever put on film in the history of movies and television. I thought that the previous champion in that regard was the 1952 Ivanhoe, starring Elizabeth Taylor and Robert Taylor and George Sanders. They have a tourney there. It's much smaller than my tourney. There's only like 5 Normans, 5 Saxons, and it's over in one joust, and then Ivanhoe appears as a mystery knight, and then it gets a little more interesting. But still, even in that one joust, I always loved that particular sequence. And well, we're not going to show you the actual battle here, but I think you succeeded there. You have some great jousters here. Devil's Horsemen, right?
Devil's Horsemen, the best in the business. They do this shit for real.
Yeah.
We're gonna see now some of the best in business, some of the fun and dying creativity, and film up again.
If we did win. Look, it's not a crime against the king to enjoy a nice art for a trice.
Do not muck about with me, Raymond. You're a good-for-nothing, useless rat.
And I think we have one clip from the actual tourney, don't we have? Maybe we show it right away as well now.
Good jousting.
I think we do have it. Or it's a really good cliffhanger now, and nothing happens. Could I maybe get a thumbs up if we're gonna show it or not? Then I improvise the jousting. Maybe then we just leave it at that. So, very good cliffhanger. You should watch the show. What you couldn't see in the clip was that the tournament is one of the few moments where really all of Westeros gathers in one place. You were mentioning that especially Dunk has a very special point of view, is different from other classes, but at the tourney you can see everyone together. What would you say this collision of classes reveal about the whole world that private scenes cannot do, George?
Well, of course, all the tournaments were different. And looking at that Ivanhoe adaptation from '52 that I was mentioning, the conflict in England at the time was between the Normans and the Saxons. So in that initial tourney scene, it's 5 Saxon knights are challenging the 5 Norman champions. And the champions have their pavilions set up at one particular end with a shield in front of them. And to challenge, the challenger, actually it's confusing because they reverse what we think of as champion and challenger. But anyway, the Saxon knights ride on the thing, and they, with their shield, with their lance point, they hit the shield of whoever they want to challenge. And of course, you want to win because when you win, you get the other guy's armor and sword and horse, and then he has to ransom it back. Which so a tournament can be if you're a good enough knight, can be a way you make a lot of money and do that. But if you lose, and that's the situation Duncan's in, if you lose, then you lose your horse, and you lose your armor, and you better have enough silver to ransom it back from the guy who just won it. And that's the real danger that Duncan's in there. He could lose his knighthood in an instant unless he wins at least one bout. Now, in that Ivanhoe movie, there's a terrific scene there where the Saxons have all been defeated, and then Ivanhoe appears all in black armor as a mystery knight. And he rides down, and they say, all right, strike the shield of whoever you want to challenge. And he rides down past the champions with his lance, and he hits all 5 shields, and all of the Norman shields fall to the ground. It's a tremendous, dramatic moment. And then one by one, he takes them on, and you'll have to watch it if you want to see that. But I've always loved that moment. That was a great dramatic moment, I think. And that's, from the section I read, Dunk is trying to, he hasn't challenged anybody yet. He's a low status guy, so the lords and the great knights are getting the right to challenge first. But he's trying to think, well, how can I got to win at least one match. Who can I beat? And he's looking at the thing, and Egg is advising him, because Egg's got a little sharper eye and more familiar than Dunk does. Who can I beat? And he's wondering about Prince Valar, who's, the Baylor Breakspear's son, and in line for the throne, who doesn't appear to be, despite being a prince, maybe as formidable as one would think. So that was a little faint there about, is Dunk going to challenge the prince? What will happen there? But of course, everything goes wonky, and it takes off in a different direction.
At one point in the whole process, did you shoot the whole tournament scenes? Was it something you kept for the very end, the big finale, in the middle, or the beginning, because it was the most crowded ones?
We shot a lot of second unit stuff towards the end of the shoot, but we were still shooting our block 2 at the same time, so there was a lot going on at once. Yeah, we were, look, and there's only one Peter Claffey. We don't have the ability to sort of go to different stories and shoot them at the same time, so it's sort of forced our hand to do things in a somewhat linear way, but yeah.
If there's one thing, what would you like viewers to carry with them after the screen goes dark? What would be the one thing, Ira?
After the screen goes dark, if there's, sorry.
What's the one thing that you would like the viewers to take away from watching A Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
I would like them to love Duncan Egg. I mean, the 2 characters are, to my mind, very, very likable, and And some of you may have noticed that's not necessarily true of the other two shows, where, there are characters who they have good qualities and bad qualities, but Duncan Egg are, I don't know, special. I don't quite know how to describe it there, but yeah.
I like the idea that we're telling a full story every season. So there's not, when the screen goes dark at the end of season 1, hopefully people will feel fulfilled, and that there's no, if it takes us another 12 years to, turn out a season 2, there's no, you don't have to worry about it. It'll just be a nice thing when it, crops up. But no, the truth is we would very much like people to have enjoyed their time in Westeros, felt that this wasn't just a money grab, to exploit Westeros IP, that this show has a right to exist within this world, that this is can stand alone, and hopefully will stand the test of time as well too. We'll have some longevity. We'll bring some new fans into this world, perhaps people who were, scared off a little bit by some of the darker elements of the flagship, that this gives them a little bit of an on-ramp into a very wonderful universe.
Guess what happens now? The screen will go dark one more time, and then there will be something about the tournament, I think. And then I have one last question. So, alle guten Dinge sind drei. One last time. Film ab, bitte.
Hey.
So the last question is, in Westeros people are knighted for service, not only success but also for service. What would you knight each other for specifically, creatively, professionally? What would you choose, Ira? How would you knight George for what?
What would I knight
Yes.
Ira for?
Yes. But Ira can go first, so you have more time to think. But maybe you have the better answer. I don't know. Do you want to kick off?
I'm hardly objective, of course, but I would knight Ira for doing such a magnificent job of putting this show together. It's I love it. I've seen all 6 episodes now, and they're pretty cool.
What would you knight George for, Ira?
For making me cry.
Aww.
Look, Sir Gardner, thank you very much for, being a teacher, a mentor, a knight already in this world. For me, one of the most wonderful creative partnerships of my whole life. It's been a joy.
Yeah. Of course, Ira was not a stranger to Westeros. He was also wrote an episode of House of the Dragon, episode 4, I believe, right? Which is the one with all the sex in it, which I like too. Yeah, so.
So thank you very much for knighting each other. Thank you very much for coming and bringing this very special evening to a close, full of insights, full of stories, and especially a story that reminds us why this universe resonates with so many people around the world. And of course, thank you so much for your openness, for your time, for being with us here in Berlin. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. And I thank all of you for coming here today. And it's in this age of the internet and podcasts and the importance of the fans talking to each other, and word of mouth and spreading the word about things is really so crucial, and I think in some ways much more important than Nielsen ratings or these internet kind of things where they evaluate things. What is it, Rotten Tomatoes? Yeah, you guys are, and what you say to each other and your discussions of the work is so crucial. So please keep watching the good shows and talk about the good shows, and yeah.
So thank again to HBO Max and Thalia for making this analog event possible, not in the internet only. And thank you in the audience for your attention. We hope to welcome you soon again to one of these events also that Thalia is hosting here. And until then, maybe A Night of the Seven Kingdoms on HBO Max will help you make the wait a little more enjoyable. Please stay safe. Thank you so much. Have a very safe journey home outside in the cold winter days. Thank you very much and have a good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Ihn live zu sehen war schon eine unglaubliche Erfahrung, und dass er so humorvoll und so nett über die Sachen geredet hat, war einfach süß irgendwie auf seine Art. So, es war toll, einen Künstler zu sehen, wie er mit seiner Kunst irgendwie umgeht, wie er darüber redet, so wie er vorliest. So, du hast gesehen, dass er die Seiten irgendwie, ohne sich anzugucken, er wusste einfach, was auf den Seiten stattfindet, ohne sich die Worte anschauen zu müssen. So, einen Künstler mit seiner Kunst selber in Aktion zu sehen, ist für mich immer einfach das Beste, was man erleben kann. So, und das war heute Abend definitiv der Fall.
Ja, ich fand das Event heute echt atemberaubend. Also das war ein Lebenstraum, der für uns alle, die hier waren, in Erfüllung gegangen ist, George R. R. Martin einmal live zu sehen tatsächlich. Und natürlich auch tolle, spannende Eindrücke der neuen Serie zu bekommen. Als allerersten, die ja hier heute in Berlin die Ehre hatten, dabei sein zu dürfen. Und deshalb war das ein super gelungener Abend.
Also mir hat es richtig gut gefallen. Ich fand es richtig gut, dass er in Deutschland mal war, hier in Berlin. Er ist ja sonst eher sehr selten mal in Europa.
Ein Once-in-a-Lifetime-Moment, so einen krassen Autor zu treffen.
Er ist wirklich magisch, wenn er durch den Raum schreitet. Das ist unglaublich.
Das kann man nicht beschreiben. Das erzählt man später einfach Kindern, Enkeln, allen.
We loved it.
Exzellent, also er ist wirklich magisch, wenn er durch den Raum schreitet. Das ist unglaublich.
Einfach total schön, dass wir daran teilnehmen durften und da waren. Es war ein richtig schöner Abend, genau. Vor allem jetzt mit der Signatur, das ist natürlich das kleine Highlight. Richtig schön.
Und ich hole mir jetzt mal eine Signatur.